The sky is actually not falling. In fact, the sky is no longer even the limit, apparently. Hi there, folks. Welcome back to a bumper episode of the Three Grumpy Simmers, the greatest flight simulation podcast available anywhere on wherever you get your podcast from, or videocasts if you're watching us on YouTube. And I have to say, welcome once again to, well, we call ourselves Three Grumpy Simmers. At the moment, I think there's two Grumpy Simmers and one rather ecstatic simmer amongst our ranks at the moment. And of course, I have to say, welcome to my fellow Simmers. I am going to say welcome to the finger-wagging Tomcat aficionado, Drew BelGeode.
Yeah, I'm grumpy. I'm very grumpy.
Yes.
Microsoft, you know why I'm grumpy. That's all I will say about that.
I mean, there is
That's all I'll say about that.
Okay, all right. We're not going to go derailing the conversation before we've even begun. And, of course, we are joined by our intrepid traveling simmer, Sergio from Helisimmer.com. Welcome, Sergio.
Hey, guys.
So
I'm afraid to say something else because Joe's going to kill me or something.
I just like go off the handle, throw a VR headset at the screen.
I'm just waiting for a VR headset to go propelling through the camera here at the moment. All right.
Listen, this thing's on borrowed time. Remember, Microsoft still has a death warrant out on this thing. Eventually, one of these updates that comes through for Windows 10 is going to brick it.
That is actually...
But that's not why I'm grumpy.
That, I would say that's a valid reason to be grumpy. But anyway, all right. So, I would say that we're going to be here to be talking about some of our regular nonsense. However, of course, there was a certain piece of media, well, not pieces of media that has made its way onto the interwebs in the last few days, which is the insight into the long-awaited and hotly anticipated upcoming latest installment in the Microsoft Flight Simulation franchise from Microsoft and Asobo Studios. And of course, and I have to chuckle at this with the fact that Microsoft and Asobo finally just accepted the will of the community and just went and just because I remember when the sim first came out and and I was one of those people that said no, it is not Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, it is Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Microsoft Flight Simulator.
And that is officially much like how the F-16 is the Fighting Falcon, but nobody calls it that. Is the fact, it was just Microsoft Flight Simulator. The 2020 was something that we, the community, added in, and it was like, okay, well, anyway, moving on. And I loved how the fact that Asobo have just gone, you know what? We're just going to roll with it. And we're now just going to call the next one, instead of, Microsoft Flight Simulator, insert number here, we're just going to call it 2024. And I'm like, you know what? You can't say they don't listen to us, folks.
And they call Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 to the previous versions. And when the official name
retroactively, official press releases, they actually retroactively started saying, you know what, we're going to roll with it as well. So, all right, now enough of us rabbiting on. Sergio, of course, you got hands-on with this new sim, and Sergio, you got to see it, you got to have a great experience, and you got to interview many of the developers, including, of course, the head honcho Jorg, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. And you got hands-on with the sim, and you've written a fantastic article, which is available over at helisimmer.com, which I highly recommend everybody, even if you prefer to have your propellers in front of you or behind you and not above you, I still highly recommend that you go check it out.
I was going to say, don't you have a second article up today, something VR related as well?
Yeah, it's pretty much the press release that Pimax sent about the fact that they were present at the event. Yeah, it's not.
I'd heard that Pimax had the Crystal Light as their.
Yeah, there were a few units. I don't know. I thought it was just one unit. But I think it was like 2 or 3 units there. Yeah.
That's better than when we went in 2019. They had no units in 2019, remember? We had to fight for that.
The VR pitchforks, I still remember the VR pitchfork coming out that day. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, Sergio, you've detailed on that, and we'll cover some of your highlights of your experience there. But I actually want to lead with something that is potentially going to be I'm not going to say on the nose, but it's probably something that is maybe the PR companies maybe don't want to hear. But I'm curious. We know that we're all excited for it. I know I'm excited for it from everything that I saw at Flight Sim Expo, all the trailers that I've seen. Obviously I wasn't there at the event, but I'm still excited for it. But I'm curious. What were you the most disappointed with? And I'm curious because there's a lot of commentary about, and it's very easy, having worked in PR myself in the past in another life. You always trying to put, you always show off the best of something. But obviously you were not dealing with a finished build when you got hands-on with it. And it is still a work in progress at the moment. They're obviously up to I'm guessing probably close to a beta stage or maybe not a release candidate yet, but it's not finished. So what were you most disappointed with? And then secondly, after that, what do you feel was most lacking?
Well, I actually pointed out my disappointment with something that the sim brings that is really good, but at the same time, the way it's implemented, it disappointed me. And I actually had the opportunity to tell this to the person that is in charge of that side of the development of the sim. I'm very vocal, as you guys know, perhaps a bit blunt sometimes, but it was the first time I got contact with this particular developer. Jorg already knows me, Sebastian already knows me, other guys inside of Zobo already know me, so they know that I am a bit blunt, but it is what it is. What you see is what you get from me. And when there's something that I don't like, I just tell them. And I told him that I asked him if things worked in a certain way. I'm going to describe what it is, and he said, yeah. And I told him that I really disliked it, and it was disappointing for me to know that, which is the fact that the new career mode system forces you to go through certain paths in order for you to reach the goal that you want to reach, even if you are a veteran simmer. What I mean is, when I first heard about career path, or the career mode or the missions mode or whatever you want to call it, I saw it as a great opportunity for us simmers to actually do something in the sim. And I see a lot of people, talking about it's now a game and blah blah blah. I touched that, and I know you like that on the article, Tristan. People saying it's a game because it has a career mode. Well, then it seems like real life is a game because
life is a game.
People that fly aircraft actually do those kinds of missions. There's firefighting. There's all sorts of different things. And Microsoft and Zobo are just making it actually tangible in the sim to do that. But you need to unlock certain certifications for you to be able to do that. So if I want to fly a helicopter and do some firefighting, I need to start my career by flying a Cessna first, do a first flight, then do the certification on fixed wing, then do the certification as a helicopter pilot, and move on. I have 30 plus years of experience as a simmer, right? I understand what the Zobo and Microsoft are trying to do. They are trying to get people to learn the basics. So when you do the certification for the Cessna, you learn how to fly a fixed wing. When you do the certification for helicopters, you learn how to fly a helicopter. There's a tutorial teaching you how to fly helicopters. I understand that, but I was really disappointed by the fact that they are forcing me, hey Luna, that they are forcing me to go through that path to achieve a goal, which is to do my missions with helicopters. I know how to fly helicopters.
There's no skip mission 1, mission 2, or whatever. There's no veteran mode or whatever where you can pick up from, I already know how to do this.
No, there's no way, and I confirmed this with the developer. There's no way to skip the certifications. You need to go through them to be able to get the missions for that particular kind of job that you just certified on. There's no scripted missions, so everything is procedurally generated for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's no set of scripted missions that you do and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
The missions that are generated according to the certifications that you have, but you do have to go through that certifications. It was, I am really disappointed about that because it forcing me to go through that path. It's
So
I don't like it.
and I definitely understand it because I mean, just here in this podcast, I mean, we've got a stupid amount of flight simulation experience here, and real world flight experience. So I get it, and I understand that thing, and I can because I myself, it's like, why do I need to learn how to do a basic circuit when I have been doing them and more for a stupid number of years? Why should I have to go back and do a basic, this is how you trim to stay straight and level with a Cessna 172? I mean, I still remember, what was it, Don Macchiato's lessons in FSX about that? Yep. So, yeah, I get that, and it's interesting that they seem to have not have thought about that, because I'm sort of thinking that in like learning development, learning design, like for real world, lessons and certifications and stuff, if you have enough prior knowledge, you can sort of shortcut the lesson and go straight to the assessment. So my question is on that. So you were saying that you have to get in this 172 and do something to get a certification. Is the certification like you have to do X number of training steps and then you can go for the certification, or can you skip the training steps and go straight to the certification, or is it just certify and done?
Yeah, you unlock the next step. So you need to go through a tree of
okay.
So it's a proper skill tree.
So you have to go through the proper, you have to check off that you can do a level turn. You can check off that you can do a steep turn. Whereas the way around it, I'm sort of thinking in my mind to try and balance the two would be just bypass those steps by saying, hey, I feel confident enough to go straight for the certification. You go straight for the certification, and then if you flunk it, it sends you back. I think that would be a good compromise.
That would be, yeah. I actually didn't try that. I had very little time to check everything on the sim, so there were some things that I hope I will be able to check perhaps before the release. I don't know if I will have access to it. But we had like an hour of hands-on, more or less.
All?
Yeah, it was really short.
I think
and
that was
how it is,
time that we got in 2019, right?
It's a lot less than what we got.
Yeah.
We got a good couple of hours at least.
I managed to go back after the initial slot that we had, which was actually a bit less than an hour. But still, you see it, you have a new interface, you explore it, you see how it is, and all of a sudden 10, 15 minutes go by and you have like 30 more minutes to try whatever you need to try. There were also some issues with the sim. Everyone had the same issue. There was a bad build that they had to solve some problems with. So there was and it was unfortunate because they had tested things over and over and over, and we got this weird bug. It was solved during the same day, but it kind of cut the time, and we didn't manage to actually see everything. It was, well, to start with, it would be completely impossible to see everything in an hour.
I mean, literally,
that sounds like
the
one of
entire
our
world.
episodes, really. Technical issues. I mean, come on, we're no strangers to technical issues here on this show.
Yeah, but I mean, just for the certification, if I wanted to try helicopter certification, that would be at least 30, 40 minutes just doing the certification thing.
Because you've got to go through all those steps before you can get to where you want, which is, again, it goes into what you're saying. You've got the experience. I want to cut straight to what I want to do. There should be, having the progression path there for new simmers, for simmers who want to try something different. Absolutely great, but there should. You're right, and I think you're right. That is something that is disappointing. That there's no way to either streamline that path or bypass it for people who have experience. Even if it was a case of, hey, give it a shot, and if you mess it up, then you've done. Now you go back and now you have to learn.
So wait, okay, let's try this here. So do they have anything similar to how 2020 has like the challenges, where instead of actually going through the career mode, let's say I want to, and I guess Tristan, cue up the Sky Crane video, I want to carry power lines and stack them up on top of each other. Can I go into free flight and do something like that? Or do I have to go through a challenge to do something like that? Or will I have to go through the entire freaking certification process before they'll be like, oh, by the way, now you can carry power lines 500 miles?
That's a good question.
I saw different types of doing activities inside a sim. So you have free flight, and free flight is exactly what we have right now. Okay. It's exactly the same. We do have challenges. There were 3 challenges. None of them were about these special features or special mission kinds that we have right now. It was mostly mining challenges and stuff like that. We then have career mode, which is the one that has these missions or jobs. And then we have photography mode, which is just that. You need to take screenshots of certain things. I did not see anywhere a way for us to play those jobs or those missions apart from the career mode. So the way that I see it, and having the information I have today and the time that I had to explore it, and the explanations that I was given by the person behind the career mode system, there's no other way that I know of right now, at least, to play those missions or to play those kinds of jobs without going through career mode. And it gets even worse, because when you start, you only have to do it once, but when you start career mode, you have to create your avatar. You have to select the place where you start. So it's a small overhead, but it's an annoying overhead. I understand why it's done. I like the fact that it's done so that you have your own character when you walk around. I understand it streamlines the experience. It adds the immersion. People love this immersion.
Is there tire smoke?
I haven't seen tire smoke. I only play with kids, but people like that, and I understand. And here's the thing, while the sim does not force you to go through career modes, and you can fly the same way that you do right now, for people that do want to experiment other things to do in a sim, they are forced to go through career mode. And in that sense, I feel like I am being really forced to do something that I don't want, because I want to do something different.
So hold on. So if I just want to do what viewers of my channel normally see me do, fly a helicopter or some kind of weird aircraft around Papua New Guinea, but I want my own personalized character, I cannot get my own personalized character to fly around Papua New Guinea unless I'm doing the career mode thing.
In free flight, I believe not. I didn't see any way to, because here's the thing. We did have some options, some parts of the interface locked, so I didn't get to see everything. Okay, so remember, like Tristan said at the beginning, this is work in progress.
Work in progress is not finished.
Yeah, there's stuff that wasn't implemented yet. There's stuff that we saw were there, but they were locked. So I couldn't even, for example, reassign my controls because the controls options was locked. I could not get into that. So there were parts of the interface.
Is this thing even in alpha yet?
I thought it would have.
I would say
that's definitely not a release candidate. That is absolutely not a release candidate.
I would say
I don't think anybody has even heard of an alpha or a beta test going on, and this thing comes out when? November 19?
Well, remember back in 2019 that we already had a very good build, and I don't think there was an actual beta program for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I don't remember one.
Yeah, there was.
There was? Yep. Okay, I don't remember having one.
We were all part of it. That was one of the things that I remember we specifically asked them about when we were there.
You're right. It was a very short one, but there was one.
See, this is why they should have invited us. Tristan and I would have done the same thing.
I remember there was. It
still
was
upset
really
about
short.
that. Microsoft.
It was a really short one, but there was. Yeah, I remember that now.
Like,
I don't know if there's going to be a beta. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that the features are not there. There
but
were
you
just a
didn't
lot
see
of
them.
things that were lost.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were lost.
And I
Well,
think
we
that's
all know that this stuff is curated for, I don't want to say the dog and pony show, but this is the show and tell.
It's the cat
like
show.
the science show.
Yeah.
It's the
right.
cat show.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important for everybody to understand that as Sergio and myself and Drew have said, is that this is not a finished product yet. And like even when we saw it in 2019, before admittedly they had almost a year to go before they released. And
but it was far from finished back then.
And it was far from finished back then. So I guess I've got a couple of things here that are I'm both concerned because we are only 10 weeks out from release. But at the same time, I know it's not finished. I know they're still working on it. It is really interesting to hear you say that, Sergio, that was your most disappointing thing. That is really interesting because I know that the mission and the procedurally generated missions thing, that's just something that I absolutely love. I use the third party tool. I use SkyPark to do mine. I know there's NeoFlies out there, which is also fantastic for doing it. There are several of them out there as well. Air Hauler 2, for example. They all do a great job of that. So it's really nice to see that built into the sim. The irony is not lost on me that was the last thing to get included in the final build of Flight Sim World before they killed it. The career mode where you started out in an airport and you picked up jobs with licenses, that the irony is not lost. But I think my biggest concern out of it, everything that you said, is the fact that it is locked to career mode. Now, again, we don't know for certain, as you said, Sergio, yourself, we don't know that for certain. But it sounded from what you said talking to the devs that it's highly likely. And that for me, because you're right, you're talking about that there's an overhead and that causes friction with people getting started with stuff. And I mean, I love the fact that, let's take SkyPark, for example. I love the fact that I can be flying in Papua New Guinea one day and then the next day I can be flying in Lisbon. And I don't have to worry about, what certifications I have or whatever. I just go, I want to take a job in Lisbon to the Faroes, and off I go. So I remember for me, I remember my introduction to dynamic missions and procedure generated missions for flight simulation was Microsoft Flight, where that's what you had. As long as you had the aircraft, these jobs were available for you. You clicked on any airport in the maps and it would have a list of jobs for you, whether they be cargo, sightseeing, contraband running, whatever. So there were no licenses, no career mode, nothing required for that. It was just simply, here's a list of random jobs that are procedurally generated. So I'm kind of concerned that your impression is that may not be possible. That is a valid, serious concern and a disappointment.
So here's the thing then. That tells me, because of course, it is work in progress and whatnot, but if it ends up staying like this when it goes live and doesn't evolve beyond that, that tells me there's still a market for, the devs that make things like SkyPark or what's the other one that you use? Volanta or one of the others?
NeoFly, Air Hauler 2.
NeoFly and stuff like that.
Mm.
So, okay, I see what they're trying to do. I see what Microsoft and Asobo are trying to do. They want to, bring in the kids, and let's face it, they're the target market because the rest of us are getting old. Sorry, Sergio, we're getting old. I get that. And for them coming in there to gamify it, that's going to be appealing because that's exactly what that market is looking for. They're looking for something that's going to be fun, engaging, and interesting, and is going to inspire them to get into the career. But for the rest of us, the ones that have been around the block how many times, and we just want to fly, we just want to carry telephone poles all over the place, stuff like that, that's where we're going to have the add-on makers come in. for things like Sky Park and stuff like that. That's where I see them slotting in to cater to us, the quote-unquote hardcore simmers or whatever you want to call us, who want to do more stuff in the sim than just fly from point A to point B, but don't want to have to go through the whole rigmarole of getting a private certification and this certification and that certification and whatnot.
Well, they're going to need to open up the APIs better then. They're going to have to do it because I actually think that you make a good point, because I know, we've talked about a lot. I mean, what do we all talk about what happened in the, we all saw the number of streams that Microsoft Flight Simulator had for the first month that it was out. But, everybody, jumped in.
It all petered out.
They got into the biggest airplane they could find. Mm-hmm. They found their house. They crashed into it. And then they looked around and went, what now? So so to your point, Drew, I think you make a really good point that I think we've all made at various points in the past, which is, give people who don't know what to do in flight simulation, who don't know that it is a true. The number of times I've seen people comment and say, "Oh, it's not a 1-to-1 scale world." Yeah, it is. It's like, it literally is the whole planet, guys.
Yeah.
So, who just don't know what to do with a world that big. Where can they go? What can they do? So to sort of say, hey, this is some of the things that you can do. So I think you maybe a good point where this is where third-party devs can continue to support and grow the hobby and extend it by saying, okay, you've had your taste on I'm not going to say it's on rails, but on the guided tutorial of this is how you start. Here's where you can now explore to. So that's an interesting, that's a really good take on that.
I mean, seriously, can you imagine if somebody like Parallel 42, I'm throwing you in this, Edson. Can you imagine if somebody like Parallel 42 took what's being done with the career mode and just blew it up to the next level for the hardcore simmers?
Well, it's TFDI now. So Skypark Skypark is TFDI now. So Parallel 42, that was announced on the last day of Flight Sim Expo.
I missed that.
Yeah, that Skypark has changed hands to TFDI. So TFDI have sort of got rid of they haven't gotten rid of because they do Pack X, and there was a big concern that it's like, oh, this is going to replace Pack X, and they were very clear. It's like, no, this is going to remain true to what its idea is of your type of flying, no matter what that is. They're not going to make it into the new Pack X or whatever. So it's in their hands now. But anyway, so Sergio,
yeah. But here's the thing, and I don't mean bad things or want bad things to happen to third-party developers, but it would be very easy for Microsoft to just unlock it, even if they want if they want to give people. I understand the concept. Okay, I understand that they, like you were saying, Drew, they want new blood to get into the sim and know what they're doing, but they could hide it behind a setting, like an advanced setting, or
right.
Like there are other settings already in the sim that you can unlock, like the developer mode, for example. Just like the development mode, just give me an option to just disable and not having to go through career mode, and even on free flight, having the option to just see missions or not see missions and play them, because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to go.
That's what I want.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I want my character creator so I can make the me, and I want to be able to make my redheaded co-pilot Alianis, and I also want the setting to be like, no, you don't need to do the certifications. Just get in your Sky Crane or get into your Chinook and do whatever you want.
Do it at your own risk. You don't earn any money. You don't earn any credits or reputation or anything.
I don't even look at the logbook. Are you kidding me?
And you're right. And it's a tough line to walk for everybody. And it is a tough line to walk for everybody. And I think you're right, Sergio, is that there's two sort of sides to this. Is that one, as you said, it's a great opportunity for third-party devs to be able to access stuff, provided somebody opens up the API. But the flip side of that also is that it's not like it's something the sim can't do.
Yeah, the technology is there.
There is no way I can understand that. I can imagine that they could possibly have programmed it that it would have to require a specific mode, and it could not be done in free flight. The only possible thing that I could imagine would be that the objects would be so high in would cause such a high multiplayer lag that you couldn't display them in multiplayer. Then just have them as multiplayer vision off, or you know, if that's the only setting that I have to change, which is I must play in the whatever the one, not offline mode, but the one where you don't see anybody else and nobody can see you, the whatever it's called. If that's the only thing I've got to make to be able to enable them so I can pick a mission and I fly wherever I want, then yeah, I don't see a technological barrier to that. Having said that, I'm also not one of the developers. So, you know, but yeah.
And as you mentioned, we have little under 2 months?
Yeah.
Exactly about
I was going to say
2 months.
I was going to say it's
minus 1 day.
Okay, so it's 8 weeks.
Which reminds me, Microsoft.
I'm waiting for the finger
November
wag.
18th is my birthday, and November 19th is when the sim launches, and you didn't send me an invite to this thing out in Vegas, so you know what I'm thinking? Premium Deluxe? I haven't put up any Microsoft Flight Simulator videos for a while, but part of the reason for that is because I was gearing up for 2024, which I'm naturally grumpy about right now because I got nothing to show you.
So speaking of birthday presents, of course we saw the pricing, and I know that this has caused considerable comment in the community. So we've gone from 3 editions to 5 editions now. We've gone from 3 editions to 5 editions. So I probably want to take a moment to break down the editions. And Sergio, I want you to sort of add in anything that's sort of beyond what's just on the Microsoft Store. So the initial, like they've kept the same commonality of, and Sergio, feel free to correct me if I'm making any errors here. So the base, well, the 3 lower tier ones are the same 3 tiers that we have now for 2020. So you've got your standard edition, which came in at $70, which is the same price it was for 2020. Deluxe edition, which gives you a few extra aircraft and gives you extra aircraft, extra airports, and coming in $100. Again, same as...
So 10 extra aircraft. I'm looking at it on my phone, by the way. 10 extra aircraft and 5 extra airports, which is pretty much the same as what we got in 2020.
I was going to say that's basically the same. And so then you go, from there to Premium Deluxe, which is again same price point as what we had for 2020, which is 130, and adding in a few more aircraft and helicopters.
That's
there are two helicopters.
15 additional aircraft to the Deluxe, and 5 additional airports. So all told,
if I remember correctly,
you get 25 extra aircraft if you go with Premium Deluxe over Standard.
That seems, if I remember correctly, that is a significantly larger amount of extra aircraft to be over. Because I think, if I remember correctly, it was only an extra 10 aircraft if you got the Premium Deluxe last time. So they're adding in significantly more value for this. I understand there are people who sort of say, "Oh, I don't fly the default stuff anyway." It's like, well, okay, that's fine. The default stuff is
that's
fantastic.
The difference, though. That's a very important point. That is a huge difference this time around. When 2020 came out, it was the default stuff, the Microsoft DSOBO, which we all know Karen Lotto had something to do with it as well. This time around, the Premium Deluxe, we've got a freaking Chinook made by Blackbird.
Can we just...
Formerly known as Milvid.
Thank you. I'm waiting for the Prince moment of the artist formerly known as.
And the H225 is made by High Performance Group.
Exactly my point.
Didn't they?
So it's not the
working on that
or default stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's not from the in-house studios. It's actually from known quality, mostly third-party developers.
If you were planning on buying this stuff anyway, now you don't have to. Guess what? It comes with a sim.
Here's the thing. This is a concept that Jorg wanted to do for quite some time. I think I am not 100% sure I've talked to him about this back in 2019 or if it was back in 2022 for the 40th anniversary edition. But he said that, for him, it would be completely logical that Azobo worked on the base sim and then they had partners working with them. And that's what they are doing, not just with aircraft, but with other things as well, including scenery. Gaia Simulations is working with them, for example. And
we know Orbix does.
Orbix as well. And
they need to hire on Clifford. Seriously, they need to hire on Clifford. He is a master when it comes to that neck of the woods.
And there's a lot of aircraft that they are being developed. Even the local legends that are being released, those are not aircraft made by Azobo. Aircraft made by
it's all Any Builds, I think.
There's actually a lot of developers. Like Any Builds has the largest volume lately. But Carinado had their time in the spotlight. A lot of the early ones were theirs. But one of the things that I was most impressed by is that all their Junkers stuff, all the German legends, were all done by a one-man development studio that used to make for X-Plane.
Yeah.
He's a one-man development studio that made a bunch of aircraft for X-Plane, and then And York said, I remember him saying this back in 2019. Him and Sebastian saying that we look for quality and we will go to it wherever it is. So that's great to see that they've continued living up to that and living by that. I said, like, the Junkers 52 is still one of my favorite aircraft to fly in the sim. And that was in X-Plane from this developer. So yeah, great to see. But then, of course, they're the three editions that we expected to see. I'm very impressed that my first impressions when I saw the first three was like, okay, because the first article that I read, I'm sorry to say, Sergio, it wasn't yours. Sorry, you were a close second. But the first one I see actually didn't mention the Aviator edition. It only had the standard deluxe and premium deluxe.
Wait, was that information even available to you when you were at the thing?
Yes.
So, okay. Yeah. So the Aviator edition is the one that is attracting the comments from the community, because the first three are the ones that they're the same price point that we saw last time with significantly more value. I'm going to rephrase this: significantly more value for newcomers to the sim. But then we've got the Aviator edition, which is $200.
I ain't paid no $200.
And it's kind of like, okay, now I'll be honest, I'm reading conflicting things about it. So I want to hear from you, Sergio. What is your understanding of what what the Aviator edition is? Because I'm hearing there's like extra aircraft included, but it's like it's not aircraft that are there. They're purchased separately. There's stuff that's already available. You get a bonus one in MSFS 2020 if you buy that now. Like, I'm hearing lots of different things. So I'm curious about, what were you told about this edition?
The only thing that we were told is that there would be 30 extra aircraft. They didn't mention what it is, but I have seen some information that those are the 30 aircraft that were released for 2020. The local legends and all those aircraft that Microsoft released.
That's what I'm seeing here too.
Yeah, since the beginning of the development of those extra aircraft.
So the local legends, so the local legends.
Every time they come out with a local legends and the other thing that they were doing,
those are the aircraft that they are going to be added as well. Okay. Now, about the one that you were mentioning for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, that is true for all the pre-orders.
Okay, so that's not just Aviator edition. Okay.
No, that's for all pre-orders. They will get that kind of their.
It's a Canadair CL 215. 215,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I haven't seen the aircraft, but I've seen some comments that it's not really.
I looked at the aircraft list and went, there's a lot of Carinado stuff in there. I recognize a lot of stuff from Carinado stable. Which, look, again, like, we can have a separate conversation about Carinado. Okay, so my next question is, and that sort of follows on from that, is so I sort of alluded to where I'm going with this, and this is something that I have a lot of concerns over, and I'll be honest, I have mixed feelings about. Yes, this is a new sim, but it's a new sim in the same way that Prepared V2 was a new sim versus Prepared V1. In that it is, yes, it does have, some important technological upgrades under the hood, but it maintains that backwards compatibility. So the stuff that I've got in my current sim will work in the new sim. Okay, that's great. That's cool. I don't so much have a problem with buying the sim itself again, but if I'm, and to Drew's point just before, okay, so if the bonus 35 aircraft in the Aviator edition is all the local legends and everything since beginning, I already own those. Well, I don't. But if I let's say that I bought them all. Sure, okay, that's $200 value, but what's my value proposition for going to the Aviator edition then? What's the value proposition for me coming in as and this is a conversation I remember having many times with Prepared, was the fact that I'm going from Prepared V1 to V2, V2 to V3, V3 to V3 to V4 was a slightly different story. But each time I was essentially paying $200 for a bug fix. It wasn't until I went from V3 to V4 where I actually went, you know what, my $200 is actually justified, because I went from 32-bit to 64-bit. So my question is there something, whether it be for existing owners of the existing aircraft, because the Reno aircraft are all included now. The whole Reno pack, which is $70, if I remember correctly, $60-$70 if you get the Ultimate Reno pack with all the aircraft in it. That's in the sim now by default.
Bet they didn't include the Top Gun DLC.
Something licensing. But you've been an avid flight sim supporter. You support it from day one. Are they doing anything like? I'm not judging either way. I'm curious. Are they doing an upgrade path?
No, I don't think so.
No, don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't hear anyone talking about an upgrade path. Just like we never had an upgrade path from previous flight sims. Mm-hmm. You didn't have an upgrade path from flight sim 2000 to 2004.
Okay.
You just purchase a new one.
Or it comes down to caveat emptor.
Yeah.
You did mention something interesting there. If you already own all the aircraft that the Aviator edition brings you, what's the added value? There's no added value, because in theory, if you have all the aircraft from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, they should work in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So if you are one of those, I would say, rare guys that has all those aircraft that were released by Microsoft, I probably wouldn't purchase the Aviator edition, because you're just giving more money for something that you already have. Unless those 30 aircraft that work for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 for some reason stop working in 2024, but I don't foresee that happening.
Well, that's actually one of the concerns that I have, because I went to, as part of when I was at Flight Sim Expo, I attended made a point of attending the developers briefing that the marketplace team gave, because there's obviously, as well as making content here on YouTube, I also do my development side. And I know that from that briefing, which was covered but also not covered in much of the media, because it's just the way it is, that while your stuff will work, if it works in 2020, it'll work in 2024. However, it won't take advantage of insert shiny new feature here. Most notably things like walk around, the dynamic CFD, all that kind of stuff. And when they presented that as part of the developers briefing, they basically said, look, we are offering you, as a developer, you will have the option to offer to your customers an upgrade path option, where you can either offer your, on the store, it'll appear, if you update your aircraft it's an aircraft. If you update your aircraft to support 2024, it will appear on the sim store twice. It'll appear in your final 2020 build, and then it'll appear in your 2024 build. And then if you own the 2020 version, you can offer those customers the upgrade path of going to 2024. And you can choose whether you charge them that upgrade path or whether it's free. So, and this is kind of to both of your points there, sort of, caveat emptor also versus, upgrade path, will it stop working with 2024? And part of me also being kind of cynical is okay, so if I've got, my Junkers 52, right? Cool. Okay, no worries. And so I won't bother buying the Aviator Edition because it's already in there. I don't need to worry about it. But then 3 months after launch, they come out with, we've overhauled the Junkers 52 Local Legend. It now supports full walk around. It now supports, kicking paratroopers out of the back of the aeroplane and seeing their parachutes open and all the new physics that they've got. $10.
Yeah, I have no idea what Microsoft will do. Yeah, that's something. That's something that it's really up to Microsoft. I have no idea. We have no information so far regarding what will happen with those aircraft.
And I guess
the other thing too to keep in mind, because of course we do speak to quite a great many developers just during the course of our daily lives. I don't think anybody has any kind of SDK, let alone an alpha or beta version of this sim yet to check their own product. Except maybe, of course, the ones that the first party ones. But even so, like the marketplace briefing that we had back in Vegas told us that we were going to have SDK documentation available by today, and I don't see it. And none of the developers that I have spoken to as of a couple of hours prior to starting to record this had received it. Today, by the way, is September 20th.
September 20th.
Just to put a date on it, because we know that this is going to go up a few days after.
So, with the notable exception of one developer that I know whose aircraft is in the sim, notable exception on their part. So. But I guess, as I was saying, a bit of caveat emptor, but at the same time, and it's one of those, is it worth it? If you owned, let's say, half of those extra aircraft in the Aviator Edition, is it worth paying that little bit extra to ensure that should they charge for an upgrade path in the future, you've already got the 2024 version? And again, we can't make the decision for you. This is something that each individual's impression of value is going to be different. As I said, for me, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I know I'm going to get pressured into flying things with propellers on the wrong part of the aircraft, then I probably would have just gone with a standard edition. But I'm looking at premium deluxe or actually no, I tell a lie. I know exactly what I'm looking at because there's actually a 5th edition. There is the secret 5th edition of this sim, courtesy of the team at Aerosoft. Which is a physical edition. I kind of find it funny, when the three of us started gaming back in the day, there was no such thing as digital editions. Like they're physical. What's this? What do you mean there's edition other than physical? There is only physical editions.
Right.
Now it's like, what do you mean there's a physical edition? Nobody buys stuff anyway, any day. Anyway, look at all the models behind me. Anyway, I actually have.
Well, I still got my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2004. CDs floating around here somewhere.
Jesus. Yeah, I don't think I've got the 2000.
A century of flight.
I don't think I got one anymore. Anyway, but there of course is the what is it? Legendary edition? I think they called it. And it's got a physical model of an AN225, a bunch of patches, a bunch of other stuff. And I'm like,
it's a limited collector's edition.
Oh, limited collector's edition. Okay.
2024 limited collector's edition.
Yeah.
Is our love letter to our aviation fans and includes the Antonov and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, you get a luggage tag.
And I'm guessing that's one of those aircraft part luggage tags. That's what it looked like to me. So, and that's it includes the Aviator edition of the game, and it's $250. So honestly, it's funny because my first pass is Aviator edition's probably not really worth the $200, but because of my personal value proposition and what I put value on, the Aviator edition combined with all the swag makes the limited collector's edition a value proposition for me. And that's kind of ironic that spending more money makes it a better value proposition for me. But anyway.
I would consider it if it was a helicopter instead of an antenna.
So that's kind of why I'm locked into the Premium Deluxe, is simply because of the Chinook. Even though I already have Miltech's Chinook, I don't mind having two Chinooks.
I mean, it's a different model of Chinook, if I remember correctly. Is it not? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different model of Chinook. But that actually brings me to something else. And Sergio, I know you said that your biggest disappointment was the fact that you don't have the options of missions and free play and stuff, which I absolutely agree with. I honestly thought that your biggest disappointment was the fact that you can't ask if it has helipads anymore. They've taken your catchphrase.
From what I hear, they've taken my chill flight thing
there are other themes, Tristan. There are other themes. So I'll just start nagging everyone else. Austin, I'm coming for you.
I know how you feel, Austin, man. I'm practically out of work. The only holdout now, I think, is Aerofly. Still doesn't have a Tomcat in there.
Yeah.
But don't all the other ones have Tomcats now?
Yeah.
But does everybody have a first-party Tomcat? Because X-Plane does.
No. Not everybody. I think P3D does not have one.
Actually, no. Prepared does. You just can't fly it.
Oh.
It's AI traffic.
Okay.
That doesn't count. That doesn't even count.
It's
technically
actually,
it does. Anyway, sorry, Sergio. Yep.
It's actually funny that the theme that I thought I would never be able to get all this stuff into, it's the theme that is actually getting all this stuff. Microsoft being the huge company that it is, I never thought that I would be able to influence the company towards getting this stuff for helicopters. And it's the one that is actually listening to me and to other members of the community.
And the whole community.
In regards with what we want. Yeah. We can, whatever you may not like Microsoft or Microsoft Flight Simulator, but the truth is, throughout, ever since 2019, they are hearing us. They are listening to the community. Granted, there are things that still need to be fixed, so it's not like they are doing everything that we ask or request, but they are listening to us. Even back in 2019, Drew, and you know this, when we hammered them about VR, when we started talking about VR, and I joined the party, I know you were.
As I said earlier, the VR pitchforks were out that day. They absolutely were.
And you got him ready and you got him talking, and then I joined, and we started talking about the fact that they were in VR, and they were already aware. I remember one of the guys saying
that's still the part that just blows my freaking mind, was how many developers told me they use VR on a regular basis and they would gladly use VR in the sim if it were a thing.
But by then, when we got there, they already got the message, because they said one in every 3 messages we get is asking about VR. And they were not genuinely expecting that. We need to understand that Microsoft did not work on flight sims for a long time. They were disconnected from the community, and the reality they knew was the reality of the gaming section of Microsoft in general,
and not even that, the console gaming section of gaming as well, which absolutely does not have VR.
If they did some kind of surveying with their community, with their clients, their client base was not one that was open, to VR that much. I wrote an article about this, and I think it was true back then, and it still is more and more. Flight simulation is the epitome of VR for me. It's where VR really shines.
Yep.
You can get
flight sims and space sims.
You can add VR to any other, even driving sims. It's really cool. But space sims, like you said, Tristan, and flight simulation in flight sims give you extra axes for you to rotate and do all kinds of different stuff. So you have complete freedom that you don't have on other games.
Yeah.
And they didn't know this back then, but they heard the community back then. They heard the community when they got those messages. They heard Drew when Drew was talking to them. They continue to listen to the community throughout the years. And Jorg already said that a couple of times when I was interviewing him. If they do a good job at listening to the community, they manage to get the product forward. Everything we're getting right now, including career modes, even if people don't like it and say it's a game and it's ruining the scene, it's
stuff we asked for
from the community.
It's stuff we asked for, and I think it's a really important point that Microsoft have been, and I'm 100% going to absolutely compare them to Eagle Dynamics and DCS here. Is that Microsoft are incredibly open about how they do things. The fact that, we've had, they've given us in literally monthly free updates for 4 years. Whether they be major sim updates, small minor texture updates or world packs or whatever, but we've had updates that we haven't had to pay for 4 years, every month, every 30 days.
Yeah.
We get monthly developer live streams for 10 months of the year. Develop, Q&As where you've got, not quite Ask Me Anythings, but pretty damn close. They do community fly-ins and stuff like that. And as a development community, even within Microsoft's bigger gaming, ecosystem, I cannot think of another studio inside the Microsoft, my Xbox game family that is as open as Asobo and Microsoft are about this sim. They're keeping us, keeping informed, keeping engaged. And if you sort of say, "Oh, it's just a game," and said, "Well, if it's just a game, then how come?" If it's just a game, why would you put in computational fluid dynamics?
Sure.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm just glad that they're even listening to us. Of course, with the helicopters and with VR, those are like the two main examples that we go to because those are our areas of expertise. But even now, one of the first things that I heard from people coming out of that event was they had the Pimax Crystal VR headset and they had Puma helicopter controls. I mean, that's like a match made in heaven. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, Sergio's in his element. So Sergio, and also the fact that Jose went there. I got to give a huge shout out to Jose, the VR pilot, because let's face it, if they weren't going to invite me there, he is the perfect substitute to represent the VR community. So I told Jose, I'm passing the torch on to you, buddy. This is now your job to keep them to task on VR and make sure that we get the things that we need performance-wise and for content creation, like the one-eye monitor mirror and all that other stuff that people have been asking for with VR that's going to push it to the next level.
Yeah.
So, it's great to hear that they're actually allowing, a lot of what we're saying, a lot of what we're wanting to come into the sim. Do more of that. Just do more of that, please. Just
keep it up, and we're just going to have to get Sergio to find a new catchphrase because now if he asks if it has helipads,
it has helipads.
The answer is yes, it has helipads.
And oil rigs and all that stuff,
all that fun stuff. So I guess apparently, like usual, this topic was very, very big, folks. So we talked. I'm not going to say longer than we expected to. I absolutely expected us to talk this long.
It's been a while. When was the last time we all spoke? June at Flight Sim Expo.
I mean, we've only ever been in the same physical place twice. Anyway, so folks, we've decided, so this episode has been split into a couple of episodes to make it easier on your ears and your eyes. So thanks very much for tuning in on the first episode. Stay tuned, following up now for the second episode.